Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marcio Cots. Hope you guys are doing great. We'll start our data privacy class within few minutes, just to be sure that everybody's going to be able to join us. Okay, so within 4 or 5 minutes, we'll start. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing great. I would appreciate if you could just send me a message just to let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. I would appreciate. Thanks, Carlos. It seems that you guys can hear me. That's good. We'll start in a couple of minutes just to be sure that everybody will be able to join us. And today we're going to talk about the CPRA, the California Privacy Rights Act. Before we start, just a quick disclaimer. I'm not an American lawyer, so I won't be giving any legal advice. So that's extremely important. This is just going to be pretty much information about the California Privacy Rights Act. So once again, I'm not an American lawyer, so I won't be giving any legal advice during our data privacy class today. But we'll talk about the CPRA, and that's a very important topic, mostly because in November, this bill will be voted, and once it passes and come into effect, it's going to be a totally different data privacy regulation for the state of California, mainly because the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, is a different standard compared with the GDPR. And this CPRA is a GDPR-like regulation. And so that would change a little bit a couple of things that we are going to discuss during our class today. So once again, I would appreciate if you guys could send me a message just to let me know if you guys can hear me, if you guys can see me. And once I get this feedback from you guys, we are going to start, and we are going to talk about the CPRA, the California Consumer Privacy Act. Okay, it seems that most of you can hear me, and that's great. So, as I've said, today we're going to talk about, it's not an enforceable law yet. It's just a bill. So it's going to be voted this coming November in the state of California. It has been it has been sponsored, and the initiative came from the Californians for Consumer Privacy. It's a non-profit organization in California, and they delivered more than 900,000 signatures to qualify the CPRA for the bailout. And as I've said, it will be voted this coming Monday. And the California Superior Court judge ordered the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, to work with Californians for Consumer Privacy Act to either hasten the validating process or to push back the deadline to qualify the CPRA for the bailout, the bailout. But it has been qualified, and it will be put into vote this coming November. So we'll see if California will have a new data privacy regulation. And today, once again, I'm not an American lawyer, so I won't be giving any legal advice. It's just this is just a data privacy class. So it's the idea here, the main goal is just to let you be aware of this debate. As most of you already know, California already has the most comprehensive privacy law in the US. And given to the Attorney General's regulations, the CPRA was, the CCPR has come into effect last January. And most organizations are still working toward a full compliance with the CCPA. But in the meantime, as we mentioned it, the Californians for Consumer Privacy has sponsored and delivered more than 900,000 signatures to qualify this new data privacy bill, data privacy regulation, the CPRA, the California Privacy Rights Act, for bailout. Californians for Consumer Privacy initiated this proposal as a corrective measure for the shortcomings of CCPA, which resulted after some switch negotiating by the California legislature. Disappeared the original and more restricted bailout initiative. So the CPRA modifies CCPA to extend consumers' right and control over their personal information, and borrows liberally from the European Union General Data Protection Regulation. So here are some of the major changes and additions for the current law. If we summarize the changes that are being proposed by these CPRA, they are pretty much on the rectification rights, some changes related with sensitive personal information, consent, extension of B2B and employee exceptions, additional fines for children's data, expanded the definition of breach, and also established the California Privacy Protection Agency. So if we had to summarize what would be the changes and what would be different from the CCPA and the CPRA, those are pretty much the most important topics. Going over each one of them, regarding the rectification rights, similar to rights provided under the GDPR, the CPRA would give Californian consumers the right to correct inaccurate or out-of-date information an organization holds about them. So that's really important. The second change, the sensitive personal information. Another concept the CPRA adopts is from the GDPR, and that you wouldn't find in the CCPA, is a classification of certain types of more sensitive data where additional controls would be required. These data types align with special categories of data under the GDPR. So organizations that process sensitive personal information would be obligated to provide consumers more control over that data. So definitely this sensitive personal information is a huge change in the California data privacy regulation once the CCPA doesn't have anything that describes or obligates the processors, the business, to have more control over sensitive data. So that's make the CCPA closer to be a more GDPR-like regulation. The third change that I want to bring attention is to the consent. Once again, the CPRA looks to GDPR when defining consent, using the language freely given, specific, informed, unambiguous. The definition closely mirror that in the GDPR and may finally mean the end of opt-out consent as a concept in the US. Because once the CPRA brings the consent as one, brings the definition of a consent, it changes the model of how a business is going to process or even sell personal information. Once now we need the consent, and by the letter of the bill, it would have to be given freely, specific, informed, and unambiguous. So that's a more GDPR-like regulation and might be the end of opt-out consent. And that's very important because it changes the standard in the, and it brings the CPRA or actually the California data privacy regulation closer to what the GDPR looks like. The fourth change that I want to bring attention to is the extension of B2B and employee exceptions. The CPRA would extend the CCPA's exceptions for employee data and personal information collected in the business-to-business context until January 1st, 2023. This gives lawmakers an additional 2 years to develop legislation to address privacy in these areas. As most of you already know, employees' personal information is a gray area. Once the CCPA intended originally to regulate the consumer's personal information. So that change would give at least would give lawmakers an additional 2 years to develop legislation to address privacy in this area, B2B and employee exceptions. Another change, additional fines for children's data. CPRA would triple the fines allowed under the CCPA when organizations violate the privacy rights of children under 16 years of age. So that's also a big change. That would regulate in a more stricter way how business process personal information of children under 16 years of age. And so also pay attention on this matter. Another change here that definitely would be something extremely important. The CPRA expanded the definition of breach. CCPA includes a privacy right of action for certain data breach. The CPRA increases the types of breaches for which consumers have a private right of action to those that include an email address in combination with authenticating information that would allow access to the account. So that would bring more responsibilities for any business that would process personal information, expanding the definition of breach. As most of you know, the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, is extremely more restricted. In most of my data privacy classes, I usually say that the CCPA would represent something like a 25% of what GDPR regulates. But this CPRA regulation would increase how the state is regulating data privacy in up to 50% to what the GDPR represents to any business that process personal information in Europe, because it would bring some different rights, as the rectification right that you won't find under the CCPA, but there would be in the CPRA. There would be the sensitive personal information that likewise you wouldn't find in the CCPA, but there will be something in the CPRA. It would make it more difficult for business to manage consent if the CPRA actually brings this novelty in order to define the consent. That would be the end of opt-out consent, and that means that business would have to manage all consent from the consumers. So that's more obligations for any business. Also, the additional fines for children's data also would bring more responsibility for business that process that personal information for people living in California. And the last big change that we can find comparing the CCPA and the CPRA would be the establishment of the California Privacy Protection Agency. So CPRA would establish the first dedicated privacy enforcement body in the U.S. While the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, has been considered the de facto privacy enforcer in the U.S., the California Privacy Protection Agency would be the first tasked specifically with protecting individuals' privacy right, and that also brings the California data privacy regulation closer to the GDPR, because the GDPR was the first regulation in the world to give more power to the DPAs, the data protection authorities, and that's something that we would also find in California. And California would be the first state with a DPA, a data protection or data privacy authority. So that means that once the Californians lawmakers vote the CPRA in this coming Monday, and let's say that this piece of legislation come into effect, that means that the California, which is one of the biggest economy in the U.S. and even bigger than most of the countries in the whole world, would be the first state in the U.S. to have a more GDPR-like legislation, mostly because of the changes that we have just described during our class today. So keep tuned. There will be a lot of debate on this matter this coming months. We know that the U.S. is passing, as the whole world is going through this pandemic situation. That's the only reason I feel that they are going to vote. It was because it has been proposed before the pandemic, because most of you have hopefully have attended our last data privacy online class with Aaron Weller. He's an American data privacy professional. And he spoke about how he sees data privacy in the US in the next 5 years. And he thinks that within 5 years, probably the US will have a more comprehensive and national-wise legislation, but that won't happen probably next year, mostly because of more important things that the country will have to deal regarding what's going on nowadays with the COVID-19. But for us as data privacy professional, we definitely need to keep updated on the debate of the CPRA, the California Privacy Rights Act, that would bring to anyone who wants to work with data privacy in the US, a bigger market, mainly because more companies will have to comply with these new regulations. And as we've seen, there would be more responsibilities for any business that process personal information of people who live in California, of California's resident. I feel that we are moving forward to have a more European standard in California. I feel that that will happen in the near future, and that would also help countries to deal with the international transfer of personal data, because once they have closer standards, that would make things easier, because they would be speaking pretty much the same language and applying the same standard regarding processing personal data in different parts of the world. That's the reason why we need an agreement between the US and Europe. The reason why we need that, it's because they use different standards, and once at least California starts bringing, the data privacy regulation closer to a GDPR-like regulation, for us as data privacy professional, it would be easier to deal with international transfer of personal data. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. The idea was to just give you an overview on the CPRA. We are going to post one article that we have written on the CPRA on our website, on GetGlobal's international website. So you probably will get this article if you have, if you are part of our network and our database. We are also going to send it by mail. And some of you have been asking us regarding our data privacy online class. Just to let you know, even for the foundation course and for the practitioner course, we are accepting new students. So if you want to take our foundation course on the GPR, CCPA, and the Brazilian LGPD, and also information security, you can do that by accessing our website. It's an online, on-demand course. And our practitioner course that brings more content on how to manage data privacy. That course is online, but it's live. And it will take place from September 21st till the 24th. And it's going to be every day 4 hours of data privacy content on how to implement a data protection management program, and some other contents that might be interesting for you. And likewise, if you want to get more information on the practitioner course, also access our website. Just a last reminder, if you want to get the ICSIN DPO certification, to do so, you need to get 3 different certifications: the foundation, information security, and practitioner. Once you get these 3 certifications, automatically you get the DPO certification from ICSIN. So if you take our foundation course, you would be able to take 2 out of the 3 exams, the foundation and information security. After that, by taking the practitioner course, you would be able to take the exam for the practitioner certification. And if you get the practitioner certification after getting the 2 other, you would automatically get the DPO certification from ICSIN. ICSIN is an independent certifier, and it's an international certification. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. So once again, keep updated on the debating on the CPRA. They're gonna vote it this coming Monday, and if it passes, it's going to be a huge change on how the state of California regulates data privacy. Okay, thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.